Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. It's slightly into the afternoon for myself in London at 4 p.m. My name's Chris Rule, and I'm the Director of Business Transformation at Flynet, and I'll be presenting today's webinar on ESGs and IT strategy. I'm going to talk briefly about some of the issues that should be considered when aligning your IT strategy to your corporate ESG plan. I'm also going to be talking a little about how some well-known brands have already addressed some of those issues. A little bit of housekeeping. I've just had a complete meltdown of my camera. Normally you'd see my face chirping along to this, but just for today's, you're going to have to put up with my little picture, as it as one of those IT failures that we're also very familiar with. But in this presentation, I'll give us a brief kind of boilerplate about who Flynet are, why are they talking about this today, what ESGs look like in business, the environmental impact of IT strategy, the social governance and alignment and IT strategy, and some of the impact of ESGs around the IT ecology. A little bit about Flynet then. Flynet's been around for roughly 25 years, working in the mainframe, I-series and Unix application space for that period. Flynet was historically an academic science company tackling science barriers for companies like IBM and Xerox, helping them overcome challenges related to physics and things like that, would you believe, in similar fire meets water issues that they encountered when deploying technologies like mainframe and I-series to their customers. In many ways, Flynet is still a science company, not only due to the number of PhDs that work here, but also their keen interest to maintain their academic approach to work within the community. Hence, we don't only promote our products, but we also promote best practice behaviour and understanding on a variety of topical issues that affect our broader technology space. We are located very close to Cambridge University, and we are one of those kind of satellite technology companies that works on those academic projects for the university. Our core technology offering was actually developed for and with IBM, for one of their largest global customers over 20 years ago. And on that journey, Flynet accrued more and more customers, either via large technology vendors like the ones on the sheet here, or via word of mouth. Flynet didn't actually advertise at all until around 2015, when for all intents and purposes, the science company had become a software company by osmosis. As you can see here, it's just some of Flynet's partners and customers, lots of brands I'm sure you'll recognise. The central wheel, yes, I think we've got about 75 partners, so this will be from whatever marketing team has put this together. And on the right-hand side there, there's a blend of international customers. Hopefully you'll recognise that. So that technology problem I was talking about is deciding to continue at all. So ESGs in business. 70% of FTSE 100 companies actually include ESG measures in their CEO's compensation plans, with clear targets for structural and aspirational change. This then trickles down for organizational pyramids to drive change and understanding at what was the coal face, as it were. That was before coal was a dirty word, of course. I think the notable point here is that this has increased from 50 to 70% of this list since I last reviewed the data in 2021. And that's quite true across a lot of the metrics I've looked at over the last couple of years. In some areas, there's even exponential growth of take up in this area. 90% of S&P 500 companies track and report on a number of ESG indices. I will say that it's to varying degrees. There's no single standard that everyone's following at the moment, although folks are trying to press certain methodologies into place, and we'll probably see some of these reach maturity in the next few years. Investments, and those that are interested in M&A. For some time, investment companies have been making investment decisions based on a matrices of data that require key ESG metrics. So it's not new. It's been a critical part of building hedge fund portfolios and things like that for quite a while. It's not a selfless environmental championing that's driving these decisions either. It's cold, hard dollars. Returns from model ESG-driven organizations are much higher than those that are not yet fully, I hate to use the term, woke. But in this context, it has a little bit more resonance. As ESG strategies not only consider carbon footprints, they also consider climate risk. Therefore, an ESG strategy examines the risk that climate factors might contribute to the sustainability of an organization and of their value chain. You can't hedge against climate change, against the climate change impact at a macro scale. So the majority of large investment firms now drive ESG action planning into their portfolios. From their perspective, quite simply, the planet has been deemed too big to fail. There's no point in investing in something that is not going to be around in a couple of years because it's under the water. As it greenwashing, avoid the PR nightmare of greenwashing. There are many different types. I'll talk about, but here's a couple. Clandestine greenwashing. A great example of this was from Volkswagen, and actually later others. I mean, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, have all kind of been put to the sword over this, and a number of payouts are being awarded now to folks that bought diesel cars in the kind of period window, I think like 2010 to 2020. So a great example from them was that they programmed their vehicle ECUs to detect when they were being tested and change the emission parameters to pass the tests. So claiming they were green, but really just kind of warping the results. Tacitly reinforced greenwashing. This is where a company seeks environmental accreditation for a process or source and then conducts their activities under a fake cover. IKEA is a great example of this. They were sourcing illegal beechwood from the protected Carpathian forest under the cover of a certificate from the Forest Stewardship. And at the end of the day, morally, we owe it to our children. So we should all be relatively concerned about these issues. Getting a slight delay as I transition at my side, guys. I think this is related to that same issue I was having. So basically, there's a number of different ways. Before I actually get into the issues that you might kind of core examine in your alignment of your corporate IT strategy to your corporate ESG strategy, there's a number of kind of how weights and measures, I would say, that can be used. And certainly on the environmental side, when we talk about governance and governance on the social side, it gets a little bit more qualitative rather than quantitative. But focusing on those environmental issues, we can look at things like the electricity use per employee and per customer. So environmental KPIs are quantitative measures that evaluate business' environmental performance. Tracking the energy use per employee and per customer is the biggest and most important KPI in an effective ESG strategy. It should identify the current electricity costs used by the facility on a level that is easy to compare to profitability, such as per employee or per customer scale. The ratio of expected energy saved to actual use. Measuring the ratio of expected energy saved to actual use reveals additional insights. For example, it can help businesses determine if their current programs align with current ISO 5001 standards for the use of energy. It's calculated by dividing the current energy use by expected energy saved. As the value decreases, performance improves. However, any value over 1 indicates that more energy is used than is saved for improvement. So it's kind of one of those ones where it's a 0 or 1 game. You know, it's not like it's not getting to great, into the thousands or anything, over 1, and that's a good indicator of where you're going up and down. Greenhouse emissions deriving from energy used. Facilities managers should also track their greenhouse emissions that derive from the energy used. This KPI can be challenging to track as the exact amount of greenhouse gases produced is derived from analysis of the current energy production within the energy industry. So again, it's not very specific, especially makes it much more complicated when you're trying to examine your own performance and your levels. Waste creations. Waste management is another critical factor in ESG strategy. Facilities managers should consider the waste of all resources, including physical trash, production, wastewater, sewage. These factors affect the greenness of your facility, and we shouldn't underestimate the value of that. Cost avoidance increases the sustainability of the business and reduces overheads. As a result, it is critical to keeping costs under control and promote economies. Cost savings through energy reductions, renewable energy use, waste reduction, and education hold value as economic stimuli. So it's kind of, look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. So some of this stuff almost falls into common sense, but can be applied in just, make, do, and mend, and reuse kind of mentality rather than always just throwing a big load of dollars at the wall. Adherence to laws naturally leads to cost savings within the company as well, not to mention the avoidance of the assessment of fines or penalties for violating standards. I've already talked about ISO 5001, but it's growing in popularity. Failure to maintain adherence can decimate a business. Moreover, changing regulations will put facilities managers in the proverbial hot seat when it comes to assessing a business sustainability standards. Still getting that slight delay, guys, sorry. Bear with me as it transitions. Ironically, I can see it transitioning for you, but it doesn't transition for me at the same speed. And it's coming from my machine. There we are. Implement energy efficiency data centers and server farms to reduce the carbon footprint of IT operations. The focus here, and the first few slides we're going to look at really do focus on the environmental side, because to be honest, it's one of the most mature when looking at ESGs. And then we do here a couple of slides on social and governance. But the focus here is on designing and building data centers that prioritize energy efficiency. This involves using technologies like advanced cooling systems, efficient server hardware, and optimizing layout for airflow. I actually think that point, optimizing your layout for airflow, is one of the greatest reductions you can make in any kind of on-prem data center. Reducing energy consumption, we can minimize our environmental impact and operational costs. We can get the bills down. It's common sense. A lot of this stuff is common sense. A good example here is Google, who have invested heavily in their energy efficient data centers, utilizing advanced cooling technologies and optimizing server configurations to minimize energy consumption and environmental impact. Utilizing virtualization and cloud technologies to optimize resource utilization and reducing energy consumption. Or virtualization, this should be just preaching to the choir here. Virtualization allows multiple virtual machines to run on a single physical server, maximizing resource utilization and reducing the need for additional hardware. Cloud technologies provide scalable and on-demand resources, eliminating the need for maintaining excess capacity. This approach enhances operational efficiency and lowers energy requirements. Great tier one examples here from Amazon through Azure to Oracle all offer a range of virtualization and cloud solutions allowing businesses to scale resources as needed, thereby improving energy efficiency and reducing the need for excessive hardware. Of course, there are other cloud vendors in the tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 space. Adopting renewable energy sources. Transitioning to renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, hydroelectric for our IT infrastructure aligns with our commitment to sustainability. By sourcing clean energy, we reduce greenhouse gas emissions and contribute to a more environmental friendly energy mix. This move also enhances our reputation as a socially responsible organization. Apple's a great example here. They have committed to powering their operations with 100% renewable energy. They have established solar farms, wind turbines, and other renewable sources to power their data centers, showcasing a strong alignment with sustainability. Again, folks, this isn't something you don't have to hook up a wind farm to your data center. You can just help by contributing toward building a wind farm somewhere else. The concept is to offset as much as to make your cost zero. Just transitioning. I'm going to get that delay each time, I can sense. I do apologize for that. Cannot seem to make this horse run a little faster today. Sam, if you're there, you might want to put something into these folks.
Yeah, we can see. So at the moment, I can see environmental impact of IT.
Yeah, it's not that. It's just I can see it changes for you, but it's not changing for me.
Yeah.
So now it's coming.
Right.
Sorry, guys. Prioritizing the use of eco-friendly and recyclable materials. Your approach to hardware design should emphasize selecting materials that have a lower environmental impact, or at least quizzing all of your vendors about their approach to doing the same, making sure they're recyclable or having a minimal toxic content. This decision not only reduces the ecological footprint of your products and the products that you produce and or consume, but also promotes a more sustainable electronics industry. Dell has made great strides in using sustainable materials, such as post-consumer recycled plastics, in their product designs, reducing the environmental impact of their hardware production. Establishing policies for responsible disposal and recycling of electronic waste. You should be committed to managing the end of life cycle of your electronics responsibly. Most firms do this now. You know, there's tons of firms that you can sign up to that will basically provide you with certifications for decommissioning your technology in a safe and environmentally friendly way. A great example here comes from HP, who have established a comprehensive e-waste recycling program that allows consumers to return used electronics to HP for proper disposal and recycling, demonstrating their own commitment to responsible electronics waste management. And it's great, actually, because a lot of these firms that I mentioned that will come out and pick up and certify will charge you for that. HP actually build it into the initial purchase cost, so it becomes kind of, you know, it's a zero cost exercise at the end of life point. Exploring the circular economy principles to extend the lifespan of IT equipment. So embracing a circular economy principle involves designing products for longevity and finding ways to give IT equipment a second life through refurbishment, repair and repurposing initiatives. We minimize waste and maximize the value we derive from our hardware investments. This approach aligns with our goal of reducing resource consumption and promoting a more sustainable consumption pattern. Again, it doesn't mean that you guys might give a second life to a device within your own organization. There are plenty of charities that will certify you for passing good working machines and similar IT equipment off to sometimes third world countries and second world developing countries for their reuse, and you do get the benefit of that from your certification. Great example from kind of big five. Microsoft have an authorized refurbisher program which encourages the refurbishment and resale of their used devices, which again extends the lifespan of IT equipment and contributes to that circular economy. Apple do the same by allowing their phones to have replacement batteries from those clever folks that sit at the back of Apple shops. This next one, slight delay again. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm probably going to apologize for this every time, but it does come in eventually. Clicks mouse aimlessly. It will come. Oh, here we are. Enhancing data privacy, safeguarding so we're into the kind of social and governance aspects now, guys. And it's kind of it's almost a little bit abstract, some of this stuff, because you don't, you know, we'll talk about some governance aspects and some social aspects, and it's tying it. Some of these things you already do without even thinking about, because you're doing it because you've employed a CISO and stuff like that, or HR are rolling out a number of initiatives that are inclusive, or DEI initiatives. So, but I mean, there are opportunities to attach that to the IT strategy or the ESG strategy, sorry, and almost get a second pat on the back for something you're probably already doing, or maybe you can tweak to get a little bit more value from. So safeguarding the confidentiality and integrity of sensitive data is paramount. By implementing robust security protocols, access controls, and employee training, we ensure that customer and stakeholder information remains protected from unauthorized access and cyber threats. So great example of social responsibility in something you're probably doing anyway. A commercial example here from IBM with their data privacy passports technology. This allows organizations to protect data through encryption and access controls, enhancing security and safeguarding sensitive information. But pretty much any EAI tool or similar EMI tool at the moment will do and provide similar things. Bullet point 2, implementing data encryption. Encryption adds an extra layer of security by converting data into unreadable formats. Not going to give you a 101 on that. We all know pretty much what encryption does, but it's an essential piece of complying with data protection regulations such as GDPR, which is ensuring that you're legal and ethical. You're handling that data in a legal and ethical way and fostering trust among your key stakeholders and value chain. If you do get a GDPR audit and they do find that you're not encrypting things like TLS 1.2 and 1.3, etc., you will become a cropper, and that can be the fine for a data breach in response to that with something as very transparent as whether you're encrypted or not can be sometimes a third of your turnover of your company, or turnover, a third of your profit, I think. So not something that your shareholders like. Bullet point number 3 there, developing transparent data usage policies. Building trust requires clear communication about how we collect, use and share data. Transparent data usage policies outline our practices, ensuring that customers and stakeholders are informed about data processing activities. Transparency fosters trust, differentiates us as an ethical organization, and enhances our reputation in the market. Again, things you're probably already doing, but by adding what you're already doing and demonstrably placing that with some metrics onto your ESG plan, you're going to get extra pats on the front for doing something you're probably already doing. Google's got a great transparent data usage policy, provides clear explanations of data collection and usage, which builds natural trust with users and stakeholders. Pretty much most of the big tech firms, probably, I think Oracle's is sometimes the most obfuscated in terms of how transparent it declares things, but you know, I'm sure if it was actually tested legally, it would probably be as transparent as the rest. Next slide, we've got our little delay. That's I'm going to call this the tea gulping delay.
Well, it does give us time to read through it a little bit, get a bit of a sneak peek, as it were.
Is it certainly not by design, Samuel? Certainly not by design. Is it so annoying? It's breaking the flow. Only a few more slides anyway, guys. We've got, I think, 3 more after this. It's a bit, I've got to admit, as Sam will probably say, this is probably, the subject matter of this is probably the driest for me, for one of my presentations, Sam, isn't it?
Well, it can depend on the perspective, maybe.
It's pure content over comedy. I always prefer comedy over content. Is it, okay, come on, why is this not? Here we are. Gosh, it's getting nice. Okay, so creating a robust IT infrastructure to support remote work and collaboration. We're into the social aspects. A strong and adaptable IT infrastructure is essential for enabling effective remote work and collaboration. It should provide secure access to applications, data and communication tools, allowing employees to work seamlessly from various locations. Got various examples here. But Microsoft Azure Cloud is a true provider of what I would call Web 2.0 accessibility and workflow. Interestingly, again, this is something, especially post-pandemic, that again you're doing anyway, but just wording it constructively and positively and putting some metrics behind it into your ESG plan. As an IT director, you can get extra kind of, you know, glasses of champagne in the boardroom for something you're already doing. So, you know, again, for me, this is kind of easy win territory. Fostering inclusivity by providing accessible technologies and platforms. Inclusivity is a core principle in the social governance of any business. Ensuring equal opportunities for all employees, implementing technologies and platforms that cater to employees with disabilities, creating an environment where everyone can contribute fully and feel valued. Apple's is a great example of this. Their commitment to inclusivity is exemplified through features like VoiceOver, which is the screen reading technology, and voice control, which enables hands-free operation for users with disabilities. Implementing such features, well, by doing that, we ensure that all employees can participate fully in remote work. So sometimes it can just come down to, you know, that little bit of reflection about your portfolio of business productivity applications and just checking, you know, what is the accessibility? Is there kind of a fairly unified level of accessibility? And because working with HR, you know, that can actually save money in recruitment. It can also open up opportunities if you've got a higher level. If you then find you've got a higher level of accessibility than maybe you thought you had, it also allows you to open up employment opportunities for folks that have challenges that will make getting employed more difficult. Leveraging video conferencing. Well, again, this is easy one post-pandemic, but we all know what these tools have allowed us to do and keep communicating over the last few years, and there's plenty of examples. Cisco's WebEx, Zoom, Teams. We're all on these things all of the time. So I'm not going to kind of teach you how to crack eggs with that one. Oh, we're back to our little delay. We'll take another little mouthful of water.
Tea or coffee, depending on where you're tuning in from.
Yeah, I was water today, but it could be coffee for our American
Absolutely.
colleagues or tea for our English one. Have we got any geographic idea of where folks are coming in from today, Sam?
Yeah, I mean that's we've got a couple of Americans, a couple of people from the UK, and we even had some Hungarian viewers sign up for the webinar.
Oh wow!
So yeah, quite a mix today.
Well, it's always nice to have our American brothers on the call, as the UK folks are always here, but it's nice to get our good friends from across the Atlantic to join in with these things, even though the technology today is really letting us down, because it's still not loading up this last site. It seems to be getting longer every time, Sam. But we have only got a couple more slides, and that will be it. Gosh. Okay. Designing digital products and services with accessibility features, ensuring that our digital products, and that can be our applications as well as things we make for our consumers, and services are accessible to all users, including those with disabilities, is not only a legal and ethical obligation, but also a way to expand our customer base and enhance user satisfaction, kind of what we've just been talking about. But it's just a different way of slicing that same nugget, that same data point. Adobe actually incorporates accessibility features like screen reading compatibility and keyboard navigation into its software products, making them usable by people with diverse abilities and ensuring a more inclusive user experience. We've recently at Flynet, we were working with folks that run data centers and allowing folks to just speak directly into their mainframe has kind of opened up that particular data center's ability to employ a much broader spectrum of stuff. So even folks like us that are kind of working with those old green screen technologies are finding ways to open them up to modern accessibility. Bullet point number 2 there, ensuring websites and applications are compliant with accessibility standards. The WCAG is a good standard to run off for this stuff, the Web Content Accessibility Guideline. Adhering to the recognised accessibility standards is crucial for broadening equitable online experience. By conforming to guidelines like the ones we've mentioned, we ensure that our digital platforms are usable by individuals with disabilities. The UK government actually does quite a good job of this, guys. And the UK folks are probably kind of wincing when I say that, but their websites do tend to be WCAG aligned. Similarly, I can't remember what the standard's called in the US, but similarly, most US federal sites comply with that. And I know a lot of SLED state level governments are very strong on this at the moment with their digital portals for accessibility for citizen applications and data. So it's definitely something that's being broadly taken up at the moment. Number 3, promoting digital literacy programs. Bridging the digital divide is essential for creating an inclusive society. By offering digital literacy programs and resources, we empower underserved communities with the skills and knowledge needed to access and utilize digital technologies effectively. Microsoft Digital Skills Initiative offers free training and resources to enhance digital literacy, helping individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds acquire essential digital skills for personal and professional growth. And again, there's good SLED stories on that as well in the US in terms of with broadband accessibility, and then when broadband is reaching those remote communities, which seems to be a constant challenge for certainly the more rural states, the digital literacy gap is then no surprise that it's large. So some things like the Microsoft Digital Skills Initiative really helps bring those folks on so they can access state and federal services that are available to them. Just one more of these after this, guys, and then but we are waiting for our slight delay. I'll start with point number 3 because that comes through straight away. So if I go to point 3, prioritizing human-centric design in automation processes to avoid negative social impacts. Automation should enhance human capabilities rather than replace them. Prioritizing a human-centric approach ensures that our automation efforts lead to positive social outcomes and do not result in job displacement or other negative consequences. So, I mean, a good example of this is Tesla's autopilot system, which is designed to assist human drivers rather than fully replace them. Although one would suspect that Elon has a way of fully driving the cars without it, but at least in first principles, it's designed to just assist rather than replace. Even though I've done that, it still hasn't come down yet, but we do. Oh, here it is. Perfect. So going back to bullet point number 1 there, developing and implementing AI systems that are transparent, unbiased and accountable. Ensuring the ethical use of AI involves building systems that are transparent in their operations, free from bias and capable of being held accountable for their decisions. This approach promotes trust and fairness in our AI-driven applications. I'm not going to lie, there is so much media north and south over things like ChatGPT and stuff like that. And most people seem to have a large kind of misunderstanding of different types of AI. And I believe there's another seminar in our series that kind of details all the different types of AI and why ones we should be concerned about and ones that are less concerning, and ChatGPT is certainly one of those that's less concerning. But GPT-3, and there's also 4 now, I think, guys, model is designed with an emphasis on transparency and explainability, which enables users to understand how the AI arrives at its outputs, which fosters a responsible AI adoption. So not only does it provide the answers, but you can also say, how did you get to that set of answers? And it will explain its logic. Most folks have never tried to do that, but it does work. Number 2 there, guys, regularly assessing and addressing potential ethical concerns related to AI algorithms. So continuous monitoring and evaluation of AI systems is vital to identifying and rectifying potential ethical issues. Actively addressing biases and refining decision-making processes, we ensure that our AI technologies have a positive social impact. And this basically boils down to the fact that, guys, a human did design each AI. So each AI does have a bias. If it's that bias can be individual, it can be collective, it can be organizational. But even things like Bard or ChatGPT, they will have a bias that is led by the organization that has developed them. IBM actually have something called the AI Fairness 360 Toolkit, and that provides tools and resources to detect and mitigate biases in AI models, which demonstrates a commitment to addressing ethical concerns and related to AI algorithms. I think it comes from their department, from the IBM Department for Business Value, which is kind of almost like an internal think tank. They're normally very good, actually. They produce a number of good pieces. We've already done number 3, so I will skip onto the next slide, which I think is the last content slide. So I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm going to go for bullet point 3 again, because I'm waiting for bullet point 1 and 2 to land. So at number 3, establishing clear expectations for ESG performance in contracts and partnerships. Setting explicit ESG expectations in contracts ensures that our partners understand and adhere to our sustainability and ethical requirements. This approach promotes accountability and consistency across our supplier and vendor relationships. Nestle, kind of coffee producer and chocolate producer, if you're not familiar with them, include sustainability clauses in all contracts with suppliers, outlining expectations for responsible sourcing, waste reduction, and other ESG related practices, reflecting their dedication to sustainable partnerships. A lot of organizations, you may already be doing this, so it's just how you surface that data and promote it through your corporate reporting, and how that comes back to Wall Street and or if you're a UK like FTSE type environments. Still waiting. I suspect this is going to move for me in the next few seconds, and this will be the last time we have to wait for this. I do apologize. I always think it's ironic when technology fails technology people. Oh, here it is. So number 1 there, incorporating ESG criteria when selecting and evaluating IT suppliers and vendors. So integrating ESG considerations into supplier and vendor selection processes aligns our organization with ethical and sustainable partners. So you will have a corporate, in most cases, folks have got a corporate ESG policy that will already define their requirements for how they partner with stakeholders in their value chain. It very rarely finds its way to the IT director's desk. But it's an easy win for an IT director because the technology industry is actually quite sophisticated in terms of its ESG declarations. So there's a good chance that most of the vendors you are already using are well aligned with your corporate ESG requirements. And therefore, again, it's just an easy tick box when reporting that upwards. So it's a small admin exercise, and you'll probably find that you're able to get something on your quarterly business review that looks like you did a load of work, but were just fortunately already aligned. But even in doing that analysis, you may see some misalignment, and then that's something else that you can state in terms of how you're going to address the delta going forward. Bullet point number 2. Oh no, my practical example for that point 1 was that Unilever evaluates suppliers based on environmental and social criteria, ensuring that their partners uphold sustainability standards and contributing to positive societal impact. And the reason I referred to Unilever because of how strong their requirement is for positive societal impact. So you have to demonstrate your organization's commitment for working in the community, giving employees time to work on community projects and the like. So they are looking to partner with really people that are kind of that are involved in works that do no harm. And what I mean by that is that they are supporting local and national and sometimes foreign entities with their community works. Number 2 there, bullet point number 2, collaborating with partners who share their organization's commitment to sustainability, diversity and ethical practices. So obviously it's kind of natural. You want to partner with organizations that share your ESG values. Having the same values in any format, let alone ESG, makes working together far more mutually beneficial, reinforces both parties' commitment to a more sustainable and inclusive business ecosystem. Patagonia is my example here. They collaborate with suppliers and vendors who align with their commitment to environmental responsibility and ethical labor practices, demonstrating a holistic approach to sustainable partnerships. And we actually started with number 3, and that kind of gets us to where we are today. So basically, the next slide is purely questions. But what I've hoped to do today is highlight easy wins for folks. And what I do find is when folks highlight the easy wins, obviously I'm kind of very mobile, and certainly in the Americas, where I work doing a lot of working with a lot of kind of Fortune 500 companies and kind of seeing where they are in this journey. It's always one of the things I always find most rewarding is how quickly you can take an IT leadership team and demonstrate how quickly they are already complying with a good number of ESG parameters that probably they never even considered in time or in view of a corporate ESG policy. The corporate ESG policy may have been very new, and IT operations have been operating the way they have been for some time with an ecosystem of already installed vendors, so and partners. But like I say, the community that we are in very much is sympathetic to a lot of these ESG paradigms, and therefore already have a good bit of verbiage and declarable and demonstrable evidence of their activities in that space. And that just makes that kind of initial response to a new corporate ESG policy, or the first time you have to align with that corporate ESG policy, kind of an easy win. And in some cases that I've worked on, there's been a level of success that has, had almost Wall Street style measurable returns from what I saw as actually an administration exercise, without actually having to demonstrably change what was already happening at the ground. But what it did do is recognize the achievements and the partnerships and the value chain and the benefits that that installed ecosystem had around ESG already. But in doing that recognition, it always does identify those kind of delta areas where you could improve it or you could close gaps and stuff like that. And so having that maturity of that installed base, plus the reflection about where the gaps are, because you've never looked really with those eyes on before. And when you do see those gaps. I think that creates a really quick foundation, one that delivers rewards to the larger organization as a whole, but also to you as individuals in your career paths, and kind of, how strategically the rest of your colleagues see your vision, and how demonstrable you're impacting that on the ground. So that would be kind of it from me, I think. If you've got any questions, I'm not quite sure on the question format today, Sam. Am I taking questions or bundled?
Chris, just first off, I want to really thank you for your time today. I think I can speak for everyone when that was a really interesting presentation. This is such a hot topic. I mean, we've all seen this on LinkedIn. It's all over the news. So just having a breakdown like this from first principles, I think was really, really just insightful. In terms of follow-up, there's a couple of people wondering if there's any kind of written material about this that we could share with them. I
think we've either I've written an article about this. It might have a couple of miles on it. It might be a year old or so, but or one of my colleagues in the kind of science team might have done. But I'm fairly sure that mine, I've definitely wrote one, so we could definitely share it. Always happy to get feedback on that as well.
I'll be following up with everyone that signed up and or attended. So I'll pop that in the email. Just so everyone's got that for their records as well.
Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to apologise once again for my technical difficulties today. I'm actually now thinking it is my PC, because that's odd that my camera wasn't working and I'm getting these huge delays. So I might have to make sure that my machine's not like on its last legs and or giving up the ghost. And I'll look to recycle my machine if it is.
Very good. Well,
okay,
thanks so much, everyone. And Chris, once again, thanks so much. Great webinar, and we really appreciate everyone for turning up. So thanks very much.
Thank you all. Take care now.